If you or a loved one are suffering from addiction or alcoholism, I'm here to tell you that there is help out there, even when it doesn't seem that way. You can attend or call the many great anonymous groups in your local community, or, of course, the SAMHSA Drug Addiction National Hotline found at 1-800-662-HELP. They provide free referral service in both English and Spanish 24 hours a day, as well as other information about drug addiction. There are hundreds of books, websites, and other resources, as well as joining us right here on Simply Difficult. This show is not affiliated with AA, NA, or other anonymous groups, just provides another safe place to listen, learn, and recover together. Me, I'm not a licensed professional. My name is Sam Speck, and I, too, am in recovery. I just have a microphone and a will to help myself and others recover. Through this program, we will bring on guests, including professionals in addiction counseling, psychology, and other recovering addicts sharing their advice, stories, and experience through addiction. Shows will be 1 hour long in a variety of big book work, step work, spiritual reading interpretation, DBT training, and professional advice interviews, as well as trying to normalize the simply difficult conversation you need to have with a loved one, or more importantly, yourself. Welcome in. It's another edition of Simply Difficult. Hopefully to be across as many different platforms at one point or another, but for now, of course, YouTube, SoundCloud, trying to stay on the free side as well. But of course, as many different platforms, sometimes they come with different variances. Anyway, it is Simply Difficult. I'm your host, Sam Speck. Glad you guys have joined us here for episode 3. I know we're a little bit behind on weeks. I myself have been incredibly busy. I've been okay. We're okay on this end, but have been incredibly busy. And unfortunately, last Saturday, the episode was not able to get out. I had some, first of all, issues trying to get it done on Sunday as well, some technical issues, and then had to work basically all the way through the beginning parts of the week. So, hey, we're here, and we're going to have a nice double drop of episodes today, tomorrow as well, so we can catch up on those times. But this is a recovery podcast, and for those that missed out on both the first 2 episodes, again, just another safe place where addicts, alcoholics, maybe those curious, and all in between can come in and learn a little bit, laugh a little bit, be a part of another recovery process. Really, this is kind of emulating what an AA meeting would feel like. We're going to have a lot of what the basic construct does inside an AA meeting, including how it works. We'll get to that here in just a minute. We'll go over kind of our days, and I want you guys at home to reflect on your days as well, as I do mine here in our first segment. Today, we are going to kind of step away from step work. We've really been hammering on step 1, which, again, in my eyes, in my view, is more of a 2-part step. Not only is it realizing that you have a problem, accepting that you have a problem, but then also putting initiation into that action, which is maybe getting yourself some help, whether it's hospitalization, inpatient, outpatient, rehab. There's a handful of things, or really just talking to someone. That's as bare basic but overwhelmingly helpful, is just being able to talk to someone. And again, that's within the name of this program as well, Simply Difficult. That is how the conversation goes when you're talking to some loved ones, or you're talking to some individuals that really just don't understand what a lot of people are going through within addiction. So again, my name is Sam Speck. I too am a recovering alcoholic and drug addict myself. So I don't claim to be any sort of professional. I don't claim to be any sort of, psychologist, or really, I take what I have learned and I transfer it on to you. And I really hope that this just becomes another safe place where we can share our stories, where we can, again, meet together for just an hour a Saturday. Hopefully we can get this more on a regular basis, and again, on as many platforms as we can. But for now, very simple. It's just me. It's a one-man program here, one-man show for now, and I can only do so much as one individual, but really just wanting to help as many others out there as I can while helping myself within the recovery process. So let's go ahead and just briefly look through today's show before we get to how it works, and then we'll take a look at our last couple of weeks, actually, since it's been since we caught up with each other. So really, today's show, we're, again, like I had mentioned, kind of stepping away from step work. We really hammered on step 1. However, we will be coming back to it a little bit later in the program and kind of foreshadowing into step 2. We'll be looking out of the NA book. Now, I know not everybody has that out there, but if you do, then you can follow along on the respected pages that we'll be going through. But we'll be looking mostly out of the Narcotics Anonymous book. book today. As I have said, when we look out of the AA book, CA, NA, doesn't matter. Really, if your drug of choice or your addiction does not apply, then really just kind of transfer the names. I think all the 12-step program, and I think a lot of these anonymous groups, really, if you do transfer the names, will apply to whichever you might be suffering with. So we are going to look a little bit out of the NA book. Of course, we will look into a CA book a little bit later, but these are daily meditations, as we always leave you with kind of a nice spiritual reading, as well as some tips today. Our tips will be perseverance, 10 tips to sticking with long-term recovery, and then really our big meat of the program will be DBT training. This is something that I learned when I was in inpatient therapy, something that I am still trying to apply to my everyday life. It's difficult to sit there and try and remember all of these different things because it's a lot of different information at once, which is, again, a nice core reason why this program has become. So you can archive it. You can go back and watch these over and over, and hopefully it will get drilled into my head as well as yours out there. So DBT training is dialectical behavior training, rather. So dialectical behavior therapy. I don't know where I got training out of that. But anyway, DBT is, again, kind of transferring more of a physical side of therapy, physical side of trying to get better, and more thinking into the mental side of things, into your brain, into the actual makeup of what's going on within your thoughts, within your, again, big word, neuroplasticity that is happening. We'll get into that here as we go throughout the show. But there is something legitimately going on within your head, and this is a different look. Instead of just kind of basing it and that taboo and that almost weakness that addicts seem to have from people from the outside looking in, that they assume like, oh, you just can't handle it. Oh, you just can't control it. I am here to tell you that you do have an allergy. You have a disease. Again, I struggle with the disease word, but you have an allergy. Something happened in your mind, in your brain, that is legitimately changing over time. Now, yes, it is your decision to maybe take that for the first time and continue on throughout those years, but after you have passed that threshold and you have changed the pathways in your brain, there's little that you can do other than start to change and start to go through the recovery process, because once you're past that, it is hereditary. It sometimes gets passed down, but unfortunately, I myself, as many as millions of Americans out there, and those worldwide as well, wherever you may be listening, really, a lot of people have changed their brain chemistry. You have changed the way that you think. You have changed the way that your brain incorporates alcohol or a drug substance or any sort of substance, sex, that rises the dopamine and the serotonin levels, something that you are artificially giving your brain as an achievement. You're giving it a thumbs up. You're giving it a shot of that dopamine when it didn't produce it naturally. So there is something that is going on with inside your head. Yes, you made the decision to get there, but again, today we are going to be going just over the vast kind of explanation of what DBT is. We are going to go over through, some DBT skills, something that you might be able to apply. Again, there's going to be a lot of information thrown at you, hundreds of different ways, not hundreds, but, tens of 15s of different ways that you might be able to get out of a stressful situation. You might be able to get out of a situation where your triggers and all of this is kind of building up inside you. These are skills that might be able to help you step away from that and get through that, through long-term recovery. So lots of information. You can write it down at home if you'd like to follow along. But as we go throughout, each episode's going to be a little bit different. We will hopefully get some guests. I did have some issues trying to get our recent guest on in the last episode, so it is just going to be me the next couple. But don't worry, we're going to get as many folks as we can, and I'd love to hear from you as well. Perfect segue into that is we do have an email down there, simply-difficult@outlook.com. That is the go-to place, really. If you have some tips, if you have some advice that you would like to give our listeners, that you would like to give out, that has really helped you in long-term recovery, or maybe somebody that you care about in long-term recovery, or maybe you've got the story yourself. Maybe you're a recovering addict and you would just like to come and be a part of this almost artificial AA group that we have here in Simply Difficult. So again, simply-difficult@outlook.com. That's a capital S and capital D with a dash right in the middle of things. So yeah, we are going to look a little bit into the NA book a little bit later. Obviously, we've got some perseverance tips, and really the meat of today's show is going to be DBT. But as we always do, as really it's going to feel like in AA, we're going to get through the how it works here in just a moment. We're going to get through the Serenity Prayer as well as a moment of silence for those still suffering. And then we're going to talk about our next, last couple of weeks and maybe some goals looking forward for the next couple of weeks as well. We've got 1 hour to get through here, so for now, let's figure out how it works.
Here's how it works.
Folks, rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. Those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to this simple program, usually men and women who are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. There are such unfortunates, and they're not at fault. They seem to have been born that way. They're naturally incapable of grasping and developing a manner of living which demands rigorous honesty. Their chances are less than average. There are those, too, who suffer from grave emotional and mental disorders, but many of them do recover if they have the capacity to be honest. Our stories disclose in a general way what we used to be like, what happened, and what we are like now. If you have decided you want what we have and are willing to go to any length to get it, then you are ready to take these certain steps. And some of these we did balk. We thought we could find an easier, softer way, our own way, but we could not. With all the earnestness at our command, we beg of you to be fearless and thorough from the very start. Some of us have tried to hold on to our old ideas, and the result was nil until we let go absolutely. Remember that we're dealing with drugs and alcohol, cunning, baffling, and powerful. Without help, it is too much for us, but there is one who has all power, and that one is God. And may you find him now. Half measures availed us nothing. We stood at the turning point. We asked his protection and care with complete abandon, and here are the steps we took, which are suggested as a program of recovery. Step number 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2, became to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Number 3, made a decision to turn over our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. Made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves for 4. And number 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6 includes entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of characters, and 7, humbly ask him to remove our shortcomings. Then 8 and 9 include making a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all, followed by 9, making those direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when you would do so, injuring them or others. Number 10, we continued to take personal inventory, and when wrong, promptly admitted it. Number 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we know him, praying only for knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry that out. And the final step, having a spiritual awakening. As the result of these prior steps, we tried to carry this message to other alcoholics and addicts to practice these principles in all our affairs. Many of us exclaimed, "What in order? I can't go through with it." Do not be discouraged. No one among us has been able to maintain anything like perfect adherence to these principles. We're not saints. The point is that we are willing to grow along spiritual lines. The principles we have set down are guides to progress. We claim spiritual progress rather than spiritual perfection. Our description of the alcoholic, the chapter to the agnostic, and our personal adventures before and after make clear 3 pertinent ideas. A, that we were alcoholic and could not manage our own lives. B, that probably no human power could have relieved our alcoholism. And C, that God could and would if he were sought. All right, that's how it works. Again, just a read-through that you'll go through every beginning of AA meeting, something that we're going to do here on Simply Difficult as well. Again, just to kind of make you feel comfortable if you haven't been to an AA meeting or really are just kind of curious as to how it works. Well, there's pun intended, how it works, again, is just a brief overview, really, of the 12 steps and something that has worked for decades now. And if you read through the first couple of chapters as well, through the doctor's opinion, through Bill's story, you'll really see how, a poorly of a percentage that really just Western medicine and trying to scientifically figure out what addiction is and what abuse is, how slim that the percentage was. I think it was under 1%. I don't think it was ever very good, very effective by any means. And then, of course, you start to interpret more of a spiritual side of things, a mental side of things, as well as a friendship, fellowship side of things. it starts to pick up. So these 12 steps, again, if you really incorporate them, and I mean really incorporate them, this is for many folks out there that, might think that you are beyond, because I didn't necessarily think I was beyond, but I didn't know how deep I was into it. I was cocky, I was cocky. I had a good position in my career. I was doing just fine. Yeah, I'd been fired from jobs, but I was doing just fine. I really had no reason to stop. I was making enough money, even though I was siphoning as much money out of my account as I could to get pills and to get drugs and other alcohol and things like that. So what I thought was happening really wasn't happening. But again, I was in a position to where I could make it happen. There's those out there that have been homeless or are homeless, unfortunately, and have to maybe even do criminalistic acts to get a way of means to get that fix, to get that high, to get it. And that, I know if you may be to that point, you think it's unbearable. There's no fixing you. There's nothing that you can do. But if you harshly apply these steps, if you harshly apply these skills, get yourself some help and talk and be a part of the fellowship. And I mean daily. Every single day. That's one thing that we're going to look at here in just a minute that I need to do better within my goals. I need to hit, they call it 90 and 90. 90 days of AA meetings straight. 90 meetings, 90 days. That's what you need to hit. And that's dedication. Sometimes multiple meetings a day. If that's where you need to be to stay away and to talk and to get something out, then this is an effective program. It really is. And again, we are going to step away from step work today. We're going to look into DBT therapy, dialectical behavior therapy. We're going to look into that here in just a minute, just really the vague outline of exactly what it is. But first off, let's talk about our last couple of weeks. First and foremost, my name is Sam Speck. I, too, am a drug addict and an alcoholic.
Hello, Sam.
Thank you much. Really, my last couple of weeks have been pretty good, overwhelmingly busy, to be honest with you. I have not taken care of my body in years. If anything, I've been destroying my body. I'm out of shape. I'm 150 pounds on a good day, soaking wet with 100 pounds of clothes on. I'm skinny. I'm out of shape. I feed myself with empty calories within alcohol, or I did, and distracted my mind with different drugs and different substances to the point where food didn't really even matter to me. Protein, substance, carbs, they didn't even really matter to me. What mattered to me and where the money was going was my next fix, was my next little bit that I could get a hold of, whether it was alcohol. Fortunately, happened to be the cheapest for me. I unfortunately do believe that I'm a drug addict that folds and succumbs to alcohol. Because when I can't get my fix, when I can't get a hold of pills, when I can't get a hold of something like that, then alcohol is the easiest thing that you can access. It's right down the road. It's a downer. It's something that my body absolutely responds to. And again, I'm almost an addict, but when I can't get it, then I turn into an alcoholic. And unfortunately for alcoholics, a lot of them do that in the opposite manner. They trade off, oh, I'm not drinking. Yeah, but you're doing a whole bunch of other things during the day. Oh, I'm not drinking. Again, I'm kind of the flip-flop of that. Nonetheless, I've had a couple of good weeks. I really have. Busy. Again, I went from not taking care of my body to all of a sudden getting into a really labor-intensive job. I don't want to say every warehouse job is intensive, and it's not like this one's that difficult either. It's simple. Again, been working at Amazon just in a sortation center, getting as many, I'm telling you, thousands of packages out within a 10-hour period of time, but it is extensive work. It's back-to-back work. It's daily. It's a lot of hours, and it's labor. It's intensive labor. It's not the hardest job I've ever had, but again, after not treating my body for the last couple of years, not doing anything physical, just filling with substance, filling with empty carbs and proteins and fake, I was bound to injure myself. Kind of busted up the knee a little bit, was a little bit sore, but I go back tomorrow as well, ready and happy to work. So really, the last couple of weeks, they've been good. They've been productive. They've been allowing me to get out of the house I'm coming up on my 2 months, not quite there. I actually went back on the calendar and looked it up. So I'm coming up on my second 2 month that hopefully I will surpass and continue on from drugs and alcohol. Now, again, I'm not, for the purist out there, I still smoke a little bit of weed. I do have chronic migraines. That's not an excuse. I do smoke weed more on a night, like late at night, can't sleep. I just, something like that. So purist-wise, no, I haven't been sober for 2 months. But away from pills and alcohol, that's a number that I'm proud of. So I'm going to keep that. Coming up on my second 2 months, went back and looked at that. It's been a good couple of weeks. It really has. It's been a productive couple of weeks for me, and it's been difficult. It really has. Again, just physically wise, actual physically wise, it's been difficult. And not taking care of yourself and then going into a labor-intensive job. I'm sore, man. I mean, I'm laying down. I'm tired as shit. The last couple of weeks, they've been difficult, and we do, again, apologize for not getting the last couple of weeks of programs up, but we're going to have a double job, one today, one tomorrow as well, and then we'll be caught up. And then, again, if you'd like to be a part of the program, I'd love to have you. Simply-difficult@outlook.com. So before I go any further, though, I did forget to do this. Let's go ahead and go through the Serenity Prayer as well as a moment of silence for those out there who are still suffering. So first and foremost, let's take a moment of silence. And you can follow me if you'd like. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Here was my first 2-month chip, again, coming up on it from drugs and alcohol here fairly shortly, actually. So next episode, I will be celebrating that birthday. And also, I'd like to hear from you as well. You can use that email down there to celebrate maybe a birthday. Obviously, if you're over a year and you're on to multiple years, love to hear from that. But really, months 1 through 12 or day 1 through 30, you can tell me where you're at. Those are big achievements, especially the first 24 hours, especially the first 7 days, especially the first month. And then after that, you start to build those months, the big year. I haven't hit the year yet. And I'd love to celebrate your rebirth date here on Simply Difficult as well. So let's get back into the week here for myself. And again, at home during these parts of AA, of course, we'll go over a reading so you can interpret that, but usually at the beginning, you kind of go over your previous week. You kind of relate to maybe what we're going into. So something that we like to start the program with, again, like I had mentioned, I've had a busy week, really have. Looking back, if I were to say something that I'd like to maybe change, maybe not as proud of as I'd like to be, I need to get to more meetings, man. I do physical meetings, not Zoom meetings. I do better with physical AA meetings, people that I can see, people that I can connect with. It's been difficult, obviously, in times of COVID and in smaller communities. You don't have a whole lot of different meetings, and sometimes you can't relate with some folks. Zoom is a great outlet. I've used that primarily since I've moved. My most recent move and my most recent relapse, I've used that probably primarily. And for obvious reasons, it's difficult to find a physical one that works with time and work and things like that. You can make every excuse in the world. But at the same time, I myself, and probably many others out there, you need to get to one. I was going to take a look at this. Here's a piece of advice for you. Not sponsored, maybe would love to be. It is called Meeting Guide. It is an app that you can get on your smartphone, whether it's an Apple or an iPhone or something like that. All you have to do is download the app and then put in your location, and it comes up with hundreds of different meetings, whether it's in your community or surrounding. You can kind of change the location length, I guess. So if you would like to look a little bit further and maybe have to drive 30-ish minutes, that might be the difference that gets made. So make that drive and be dedicated to this program. So Meeting Guide is the name of it. I think it was a free app. I didn't pay anything for it. So Meeting Guide, give that one a download, take a look at it, and again, as me, and hopefully many of you out there, if you haven't been to as many meetings as you need to be, I need to get the 90 in 90 underneath my belt. If you're fresh out of rehab, if you are really fresh into this process, they really do kind of drive that into your brain. 90 in 90. 90 days of AA straight. 90 meetings, 90 days. That's what they mean. And relapse or not, you need to be there every single day while you're doing that. That's something that I haven't done. I'm not proud to say that, but at the same time, you got to be honest with yourself. I haven't done it, but we all need to do it. That's going to be a big long-term goal for myself. Short-term goal, I need to get to more meetings. Right now, again, that's in the last couple of weeks, something that I necessarily not proud of, but it could certainly do better in the upcoming weeks is get to more meetings, talk about this, not only just with a screen or with people. Now, we have had great outreach, by the way, through the email, simply-difficult@outlook.com. We have had great outreach, and we do appreciate you being a part of the program and sharing your stories, sharing your advice, maybe coming onto the program. Again, we had some issues with our guest that was supposed to be last week. He was unable to be a part of the program, but we'd love to have you on. We'd love to talk about your day, your advice, your experience through recovery. Long-term, short-term, doesn't matter. We'd love to have you on just as if, again, we were in an AA meeting. So I need to get to more. You might out there need to get to a little bit more. So that's one goal, I guess, short-term and long-term goal that I could probably set for myself, and maybe those out there as well. So looking back at the last couple of weeks as well, I am proud of, and this is always one thing that you need to do that a lot of people look over. And instead of looking at the things that you did negatively and really driving on those mentally and saying, man, I really got to avoid that. I really got to avoid that. Now, it might not be necessarily deconstructive, that might be constructive, so then you avoid doing that in the future, but it's certainly something that is going to take a lot of energy to do. And when you're just driving energy into that negative thought, into what you did wrong, how can I do better, what did I do wrong, how can I do better, instead you think about how can I do better, and let's apply that to the next time that this occurrence arises. You need to just flip what you're thinking into a positive aspect into it, right? So it's just trying to think long-term instead of thinking behind you, really. And again, that's another thing that I need to do a little bit better as well. I need to look ahead. I need to apply the things that I have learned instead of looking back and saying, damn it, I shouldn't have done it that way. Why did I do it that way? Let's look forward with it. So another long-term goal that probably I could get up to with this as well is just be more consistent. Again, I'm getting my ass kicked, man, with this job right now. I'm out of shape. You know what I mean? I'm fucking out of shape. I've been drinking and doing drugs the last 5-6 years, probably even longer than that straight. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden, just boom, hammering into a fairly labor-intensive job. It kicked my fucking ass. I'm not gonna lie, it did. It kicked my ass, and so. Yeah, the transition into that has been taking me a couple of weeks. So hopefully I can get back to that, start to do some more DoorDash and making a little bit more money, starting to be a little bit more comfortable with things. And then realistically, you've got to think about the stress that maybe that's going on in your body, the stress that's going on in your life, and think realistically. Because again, you do need to hammer on these steps very hard. And you can do that all while trying to transition. So I need to do a little bit better with that as well. I'm in a major transition right now, but I also need to be able to apply these steps to my everyday life, continue to work with my sponsor, work through these steps, and find different resolutions, find different things that I could do during the week that is more productive than just kind of sitting around or just kind of being in your head. So that's how my week has been. Last couple of, really, again, we do apologize for not catching up with you guys last week. We had some technical issues on the Sunday. I was trying to get it out a day late, and then after that, it was just straight work for the rest of the week. But we had some issues technically on Sunday. We couldn't really get a hold of the guest last Saturday and was also quite a bit busy as well. So we do apologize for not getting this out in time, but we're going to have the double today and tomorrow as well. So that's what my week, last couple of weeks have looked like. I'd really like you to take some time and reflect. If you want to press the pause button, maybe write some things down. This is a good time to maybe write down what you are proud of. Again, you need to write down those milestones so you don't forget them. You're always, as we just had mentioned, looking into the past and relishing and saying, damn it, why did I do it that way? I should do it differently next time. Might be productive, but it's a lot of energy for your mind to go through that and constantly think that way. Instead, write down those milestones, write down those things that you've been doing well these last couple of weeks and continue on. And also maybe write down the things that you're not as proud of. I don't want to necessarily say be disappointed in yourself. That's awful. It's a horrible mindset to have. But at the same time, think thoroughly, think hard, and say, that's probably not the most productive way to do things. It's probably not the best way to do things. Probably not the best people to be around to do these things. And change it. So, again, good time to maybe write down and reflect for the last couple of weeks. So, all right, let's segue into this. This is going to be the meat of our program today, is what is DBT? Something that I learned when I was in inpatient rehabilitation, we'll hopefully have a couple of counselors on from the Hauling Pathways in Wichita. Love to give them a shout out. They very much helped me. It was a very friendly staff, fantastic staff. Again, not a partner yet, maybe, I don't know. But at the same time, many different great facilities across the nation, thousands of these facilities, whether you're in a big town or small town. I was in Wichita, which is a almost picture-perfect dictionary definition of a little big town. It's a big town, but kind of a small town feel to it. So it was a fantastic facility that I went to within Hauling Pathways. This is kind of the dictionary almost that they trained us through their inpatient rehab. And then also I went through the outpatient rehab as well, those classes. Made a lot of great friends. A lot of great friends through recovery, met a lot of great people, and hopefully through their professional side of things, whether they're addiction counseling, psychologist, maybe their guest, or other recovering addicts. We'll try and get as many on as we possibly can. But let's talk about this. What is DBT? Because I keep saying that. No, it's not DMT. We're not going to blast off to the moon. We're not about to go out to the fucking space. It's not what it is. It's DBT, dialectical behavior therapy. DBT is an effective treatment for people who have difficulty controlling their emotions and their behaviors. Me personally, I'm impulsive. I very much act very quickly. If I come up to a conflict, and this doesn't necessarily have to do with drugs or anything. When I come up to a conflict, when I come up to a cross in the roads or a problem, I need to get it done immediately. I don't like having that hang over my head, and I act impulsively. I act immediately. It sometimes works in my favor because then I get shit done. Then I get things done, and I move forward. It also works well when you have drive and you have goals. What do I need to do? I need to get that done. But that impulsive behavior, that quick acting, what do I do? On a negative connotation of things, I can easily convince myself, oh, we've got enough money. You're going to be alone for the next couple of days. Let's go out and buy a bunch of drugs. Let's go out and buy a bunch of booze. And then you do that for days consecutive, years consecutive. And you completely change the way that your brain reacts. You completely change the way that your brain is functioning, the chemistry within your brain. Again, we had mentioned this big word at the beginning. It's one that's filed into my brain through this DBT training, but neuroplasticity. So I want you out there who might be suffering or might be curious, or those that, might have the mindset that these are people that are making their own decision, which, yes, at the beginning and yes, through time, you are making that decision to go out and do drugs. You are making that decision to pick up that bottle from the store on your way home. You're making that decision to sleep maybe with another partner. You're making that decision to do whatever it is to fill that void or to hide and mask those emotions. You're doing what you need to do. I did it. I'm not going to shy away from it, and that's why I struggle with the word disease. Again, it's something that it just sounds, I didn't go out and catch a crack pipe. That's not something I did. I went out and smoked fucking crack is what I did, right? So DBT training is and DBT really, this is a lot of information for those out there to just, again, fill you in that yes, they may have gone out and done the act. Yes, they may have, just like myself, gone out, done a bunch of pills, snorted a bunch of coke, did a whole bunch of shit like that. They did that themselves. However, over time, their brain was more susceptible to change than yours. You might have done the same amount of coke as they did in college, right? Or drinking, or smoking, or whichever. You might have done the same amount as them in college or in high school or whichever, and your brain's not all fucked up. Guess what? You're a normie. You're a normal person. And good for fucking you, because I don't envy that necessarily, right? I liked being the party guy, but at the same time, I also would have liked to have been able to only have one drink and go home. I can't do that. I got to drink at least a pint to feel something, and then beyond that is good time. I mean, fuck, I'll get over a 750 real quick. I will. So this is, again, the difference after the fact is what DBT is trying to fill you in on. Yes, I made the decision to go out and take the pill. I made the decision to go out and drink the bottle. But over a period of time, my brain was more susceptible to the change in chemistry that is neuroplasticity. It opened up different pathways, just like, as they say, that your brain makes shortcuts on a daily basis, right? If you see something familiar, like you see a box of cereal and it's a certain color red, you don't even have to look down at it. You probably know it's cherry or strawberry flavor, just because the last time that you saw it, or you kind of remind yourself, oh, red, strawberry, cherry, that's the flavor of it, right? Your brain, even on a more complex level than that, is making shortcuts on a daily basis, right? So what over time you are doing by abusing and daily turning this into a routine. I had a fucking routine, man. I did the same fucking thing every single day. Every single day. And it carved a highway. It carved a new pathway into my brain saying, oh, I'm coming up to adversity. Oh, I'm coming up to an overwhelming emotional portion in my life. Oh, I'm coming up to a fork in the road. And instead of just facing it on, no, there's a highway. There's a much easier road to get out of here. There's a much easier way to get out of this, and it's using. And my brain and many others out there, unfortunately, got sucked into that. 1 in 10 Americans, millions of people worldwide. So, yes, I struggle with the word disease. Allergies better. Your brain has changed. Your brain is not reacting to the substance as it possibly should. Is it a disease? Yeah, we'll go ahead and go with that. Allergy? Absolutely. Is there something happening in your brain? 100%. But again, at the very beginning, were you the one that took that chance? Were you the one that took that gamble almost? Absolutely. 100%. So DBT, let's get back into this, aims to replace problem behaviors with skill behaviors. So when you happen to be in those moments where you are facing a lot of emotion, and instead of taking that highway, instead of getting off on the big freeway and going back and using to hide those emotions, DBT is a set of skills that you might be able to use within those moments. Medication might help. Anxiety medication, deep breathing, that's a skill. Being able to step back. We're going to get through a lot of them. Lots of information coming at you here. You can write them down, or again, in later episodes, we're going to go through every single skill set and try and break them down as well. But today, just trying to go over the vague kind of outline of what DBT is. DBT skills help people experience a range of emotions without necessarily acting on the emotions. Right is what we just said there, kind of segueing perfectly into that. You are going to face a lot of shit when you start to come down. And for me personally, it was like disappointment. It was depression. I look at myself in the mirror when I was sober enough, and it was like, what the fuck have you been doing? I can't believe that I have been using this much. I can't believe that I have been deceiving my loved ones this much. And then I go out and use, and poof, that thought's out. It's gone. It's not something I have to worry about anymore. And I feel fucking great, right? And I feel great. So you're going to face these emotions head on. You're going to be right in the thick of things. And DBT, again, dialectical behavior therapy, is trying to change your behavior within those moments. DBT skills help people of all ages navigate relationships in their environment. Family, school, work. You've got a different relationship, really. I struggle with that. I separate so many times, oh, he's my work friend. Oh, he's my friend. That shouldn't be it. Because my friends were the ones that were using at the time, right? I was living two different lives. Really necessarily it should be all one big group, but at the same time, it has a different section, I guess. Family, school, work. DBT helps people create a life worth living and a life manageable. Even if you have to take 15 minutes, maybe you're at work. Maybe you need to go smoke a quick cigarette. Maybe you need to just go outside, meditate for a moment, take a couple of deep breaths, and then that thought passes. Because there was a handful of times where, I had a stressful day of work, and the one thing I was thinking of was, God damn it, I can't wait to get off and go get fucked up, right? Or go get a drink, or go get a pill, or go get something. Trauma-informed DBT integrates education about the impact of trauma on the brain and body with DBT behavioral skills. Now, this is another level here. This was something, I believe we've all had traumas, right? For me, I had a fairly great upcoming. I did have some traumas, including family divorce, including some parental relationship issues, I guess, for a couple of years. Well, it wasn't necessarily, again, too deep, but it was traumatizing. It was pretty shitty to have to go through at the time for an age. So we've all been through traumas, but there's really different depths of traumas. Not only that, but different ways that people interpret that trauma. Something might have happened that you think in your mind is very light that affected somebody else's brain 100% different than what you thought. And it might be impacting them and thinking a little bit differently. I met a lot of people when I was inpatient that, again, were trying to escape from the world. When I used, I wasn't trying to escape. When I used, I was trying to incorporate myself more into the world. I wanted to be buzzed, I wanted to be fucked up, and I wanted to be a part of the world. There are some people that try and escape. And again, these people can use these skills to maybe help them as well. Participants will learn practical skills and strategies for reducing symptoms while increasing the understanding of how symptoms develop within the context of trauma. So let's talk about dialectical. What the hell does that mean? It means two opposite ideas can be true at the same time and considered together. They can create a new truth and a new way of viewing the situation. There's always more than one way to think about the situation. So dialectical means when you walk up to a situation, you turn it again into a fork in the road. And the one side, that big highway, the one that's so inviting, it's got all the lights, it's got all the bells and the whistles, is the one to maybe act negatively, to act impulsively, to act with anger, to act with anxiety, or to go out and use again. As simple as that, left and right. Dialectical, again, is looking at a situation and changing the way that you look at it, and changing the way that you react upon it. Say, for instance, my favorite team loses in the World Series. I'm fucking pissed. Can't stand it. What's the way the situation? How can I get out of these emotions and drink or go to fucking bed? Figure out. There's a couple of different ways. Now, I know that's a very simplified way to do things, but we got a lot of information to get through here today. But again, dialectical means when you're coming up to a situation or you're coming up to an idea, you can consider two things at the same time. You really can. You don't have to act so impulsively. You don't have to act so one-mindedly, one way. You can be open-minded, and you can look different ways. Let's talk about CBT, not CBD, but CBT and DBT. Cognitive behavioral therapy focuses on helping people learn how their thoughts become skewed and change their feelings and behaviors. So recovering groups, AA meetings, individual therapy, dialectical behavior therapy seeks to build upon the foundation of CBT. So they kind of go together. CBT, again, kind of comes within that, and then building upon with the DBT and how persons interact with others in different environments. So CBT is looking at yourself and how you react to that particular environment, how you react to that particular instance, or that, maybe something happened, how you react to that. And then DBT is how you react outwardly. How did you react to other people? How did you react to the situation when you were, arised with an issue like that? So again, a real vague kind of big outline to things, but dialectical behavior therapy very much has helped me to think a little bit harder. I, for much, again, act very impulsively. I sometimes think when a fork in the road comes up that there's really only one way to do it, and it's my way, right? It's my way. That's the way that I want to go. It's my way. That's the way that I react. And instead, dialectical therapy, behavior therapy, hopefully that I continue to apply it to my life. Let's get to some skills as well. But, it has helped me, so I try and transfer that on to you. So here are some short descriptions of DBT skills. Again, this is a handful of information and really an entire side of a page here. So let's go through really emotion regulation. That's probably a big one as well. So the first one is called PLEASE, and a lot of these are an acronym, meaning they've got the word please, but in reality it means different things. Please, which is reducing emotional vulnerability, means treat physical illness, balance eating, avoid mood-altering drugs, balance sleep, and get exercise. So this is probably something that you could apply to your everyday life anyway, is the please method. Physical illness, you need to treat that. Again, whether it's with Western medicine and antibacterial, if you have physical illness, sometimes within, being heroin sick or dope sick. I have heard of many of my friends and those methadone and those. I don't necessarily suggest that just to kind of trade one thing off for the other. However, you need to treat the physical illness head on. You can't necessarily just let it go. Balance eating. This is one thing that I need to work on. I need a consistent amount of protein per day, especially with my new physical job. Not only that, but it will help you sleep. It will help your energy. It will help your just day-to-day life be a little bit better. Avoid mood-altering drugs. That's an obvious one. Don't necessarily take drugs during the day or at all. Balance sleep and get exercise. God damn it, if I could sleep on a regular basis without these weird fucked up dreams or without actually waking up and being, so kind of in my head and energetic and wild, and then get exercise. That's one thing that I need to do. There's another goal for the week for the list is get a little bit of exercise. Build mastery is another emotion regulation, which means engage in activities that make you feel competent and in control. What's something that you're good at? What is something that you really, again, as it mentions, have a lot of control in? For me, it's a lot of sports. I love basketball. I love baseball. I'm pretty damn good at both of them. I feel like I'm in control. Same with riding a bike. When I ride a bike or unfortunately drive a car, I don't necessarily mean when you're in a crisis, hop behind the wheel of a car and put yourself at a missile and yourself and others in dangers. Not necessarily what I mean. However, being in control of that vehicle, having control of the radio, listening to my music or a bike or whichever, being in control of that is just kind of an example. And many others out there have different as well, but build mastery is engaging in something that is going to completely take your mind away maybe from one emotion and turn it into something else, something that can distract you away from what you were originally thinking. Build positive experiences. Your short-term wise, do pleasant things that are possible now. So, maybe you like your head scratched a little bit, scratch your head. I don't know. Maybe you like to take a deep breath. Maybe you like to smoke a cigarette. Go out and smoke a cigarette. Maybe you just need to take a break. Maybe you, again, do something that you can physically right now. Maybe you're somebody that likes to exercise. Do some push-ups. Do some jumping jacks. Do something in that manner. Long term, you need to make changes in your life so that positive events will occur more often, building a life worth living, quote unquote. So this means, your everyday actions starting to change. This means your everyday attitude starting to change. And so in a long-term sense of things, these events, these stressful, maybe scenarios or environments might not, appear as often. Let's get to this as well. Opposite to the emotion action. I know this is a lot of information out there. And again, we're going to go through a lot more of these on, including the interpersonal effectiveness. Those are kind of more of an acronym. However, they have more of, more descript page on them, as well as distress tolerance and core mindfulness. We'll go through a lot of this. But for now, this is just kind of emotion regulation, which is exactly what we're talking today, which, again, I think is a core base of what DBT is when you finally come down or you're finally able to face the overwhelming emotion that you are about to face when you become sober. You are left with two different choices. And again, within the name, simply difficult, and again, within just the entire recovery process, that is really what you have. You have two decisions. You can use or you don't have to use. However, it's incredibly difficult sometimes for some individuals to just not use. Let's check the facts as well. This is another thing that emotion regulations, which means you need to check out whether your reaction is fitting the facts. So something that I struggle with. Again, I act impulsively. I act very quickly, which means that if I hear something and my brain turns it into a worst-case scenario type situation, then I act like it's a worst-case scenario situation without getting the facts behind it, without really getting any sort of information behind things. So you need to be able to figure out if your reaction is suitable, is actually fitting to what's going on. Changing beliefs and assumptions to fit the facts can help you change your emotional reactions to situations. So changing beliefs and assumptions to fit the facts, again, can help you change your emotional reactions to things. They really can. And that comes after gaining all of the information. So my father actually used to tell me a saying that is really something that I apply every day, and probably something that kind of fits into this is don't cry until it hurts, because there's a lot of different things that, again, may seem like they're going to be shitty. Hasn't necessarily happened yet, but damn, like a court date, I guess, right? You're looking at a court date. You got a couple of months out for 2 months straight. Are you really going to be stressing about that court date? No, nothing's happened yet. When the court date comes, it's maybe time to worry. Hopefully you've prepared. Hopefully you've gotten yourself to the level of comfortability that you'd like to be there, and maybe the defense that you need to get out of it or to lessen that. I don't know. I fortunately didn't have to go through many different judicial things, so I found myself lucky. A lot of people have spent years behind bars because of this addiction, because of these acts. Again, changing the way and figuring out the facts instead of acting impulsively off of false information can can really help you in the long run. Cope ahead means coping ahead of time with emotional situations. I actually do this. And this is, again, where the negative side of overthinking a situation kind of comes into a positive side of things. Because, unfortunately, if that negative way of thinking actually happens, then I know how to react to it. I've already reacted to it. I've already gotten the anger out, which means, maybe you are coming up. Maybe that court date is today. The last 2 months, you didn't have to rehearse this, or not necessarily rehearse this, but the last 2 months, you didn't have to worry about this. Today, coping ahead, which means you kind of rehearse for what's going on, right? Maybe you have to stand in front of a judge. Maybe you have to rehearse what you're saying. Maybe you have to rehearse and manage your emotions to whatever happens next. I'm using that as an extreme example, whether you're in court and kind of depicting whether you have time free or time behind bars. Right? I know that's a shitty thing to look up forward to, but managing your emotional skill set and managing yourself within those tough times, and you can apply that to many other different things. It doesn't have to be in front of a judge. It can be in front of a loved one. It can be in front of an ex-loved one. It can be really anything. A problem solved. Here's the last thing within emotion regulation. When the facts themselves are the problem, solving emotional problems consistently will reduce the frequency of negative emotions. So, again, lots more to get through within DBT. There is different sections, and then even within the different sections, there are different skills. So I think for the next couple of programs, we're going to look through emotion regulation next show. We're going to look at that a little bit more in depth, considering that we went over it today. And then there's core mindfulness, there's personal effectiveness, as well as distress tolerance. So there's a lot to get through just within the DBT skills. And then the DBT learning and training has a whole bunch of other things as well. So, again, stick around through many different programs. That's probably where we'll end our DBT training here for this program, episode 3. But really just kind of a vague outline, a nice overview, really, of what it is. CBT and DBT. No, not CBD and DMT. CBT and DBT is what we're talking about. CBT is how you personally react to a situation, or how your, again, mind and brain kind of reacts to different forks in the road, compared to DBT is how outwardly that is being shown, how outwardly you are acting on what's happening inside your brain, how you are acting upon what just happened within the CBT process, how the DBT now, again, is outwardly being affected towards other people. So did want to get through a brief reading within the NA book here, so we'll segue away again from that. And this one is just right at the beginning of step 1, and then looking into step 2 as well. So we'll just go over this short reading here, and then we'll interpret, and we'll take a look at things. And again, you might interpret things a little bit differently than mine. But this is step 1. This is in the NA book right here, page 19, very bottom of page 19. Then we'll flip to 20 real quick. But here we go. It doesn't matter what or how much we used. In Narcotics Anonymous, staying clean has to come first. What we realize is that we cannot use drugs and live. We admit our powerfulness and our inability to manage our own lives. We open the door to recovery. No one can convince us that we were addicts. It's an admission that we have to make for ourselves. When some of us have doubts, we ask ourselves this question, quote, can I control my use of any form of mind or mood-altering chemicals? Most addicts will see that control is impossible the moment it is suggested. Whatever the outcome, we find that we cannot control our using for any length of time. Now, this was, again, something that I personally struggled with 100%. I was in a kind of a pickle, I guess, if you will. Well, a mental pickle, something that I thought, now that I've moved away from, didn't seem as extreme, but I was working my ass off in my career. I was working my ass off, working every single day. I loved doing what I was doing. I was making a good amount of money. I was able to support myself, my wife, through a situation where she was in school, and I wanted to enjoy the broke college kid outfit, but at the same time, I wanted to be able to support her and have her enjoy the college experience such as I did. And I had a very easy college experience. Living scenario wasn't really an issue. Bills weren't necessarily an issue, and I tried to carry that on over, and I had that personal pressure. Again, it was something that was pushed on to me. It was never very obvious, but for the first few years that we were together, it was just automatic. All I had to do was press a button, and all of our bills were paid. That's all it was. So I initially thought it was going to be an issue to step away from my career, step away from that as well. Not only that, but what were other people going to think? As much as I can sit there and tell myself, oh, I don't give a fuck what other people think, when I really start to put effort into something and I'm proud of something, yeah, I really do care what the fuck people think, right? And it was hard to admit. It really was. I didn't know how to come out with it. Now, for those that really did know me, that were very close to me, I didn't even give a shit that you knew, because everybody knew. If you were very close to me, you knew how much I used. You knew how much I could use, how much I could put down. I mean, when we go to a bar and I'm drinking in the car before we even get there, and I'm just perfectly fine by the time that we leave, while also putting down some other substances and smoking a bit. You know, kind of a red flag. So the folks that were closest to me, they knew what it was going on. But for those outside looking in, or for those, again, within my profession that I didn't necessarily want to know, I was living two different lives. I was, and I wasn't honest with myself. I was hardly honest with other people as well. I was hardly honest with those people closest to me. And unfortunately, wasn't honest with myself as well. So that was a big thing that, again, I tried to think, oh, this isn't going to last that long. Again, my wife's only in school for a certain amount of time. Let's just live it out until that, right? She's going to be out of school at this point, and then everything goes back to normal. So as I thought. But instead, a year and a half of just straight abuse, of mental and physical drug abuse, it takes a toll. And I should have done it beforehand. I should have left a long time ago. Probably shouldn't have been down there alone a long time ago. But again, I convinced myself that I can do this. For some reason, I convinced myself that I can sustain this, and instead I was completely, really just destroying myself. So let's just read up this. Most addicts will see that control is impossible the moment it is suggested. That was something that I overlooked 100%. I thought I could control the entire situation. And again, with that impulsive act, with that act of oh, I need to fix this absolutely right now, I thought that was my fix. I thought that was the way of fixing things, was just not being vocal, not necessarily bringing it up now. And who knows, maybe I would have gotten it down 2 to 3 years. What the fuck would have happened? And she got out of school and I got away with it from now. It would have been 10 times worse. What the hell was I thinking? Why did I think, oh, if I wait until she gets out, then I'm going to be better? No, you need to act on this immediately. And you need to use these steps and these skills on a dedicated level, on an everyday level, really. All right, so just a couple of minutes left here in this week's program. Again, thanks for hanging out with us. Right now, we're up on YouTube. We're up on SoundCloud, trying to get on many different platforms as we possibly can. Love to hear from you. Simply-difficult@outlook.com. The S and the D are capitalized, and yes, that is a dash in between the simply and the difficult. We're going to try and get as many different platforms as we can as well to get the information out there for new shows, for different guests, whether that's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We're trying to get our social medias put together and put up in the next couple of days. Maybe next week or so. Again, fairly busy on this end. We got to get a couple of episodes out for you today so we can catch up on things. But let's get really just last couple of things. We'll get to our let's see here, our daily meditations from A Quiet Peace. This was 2 years ago, the edition, so I'd love to get a 2021. But we'll take a look at today's date and spiritual reading. But here's 10 tips to sticking with long-term recovery, quote-unquote perseverance here, right? So here's tip number 1, get help. Since sobriety, again, is nearly impossible to maintain on your own, you got to talk, man. You got to talk to somebody, whether it's your friend, whether it's your loved one, whether it's your parents, whether it's a counselor. Maybe it's somebody that you have no fucking clue who it is because you want to stay anonymous. You need to be able to talk with someone. In your AA groups, there's usually a sponsor list. There's usually folks that will leave their phone numbers so you can call them. If they have room, then they will welcome and be a sponsor for you. So getting help and using that help and being a part of this fellowship is going to help you 100%. Number 2, put your recovery first. And this is what I've been driving into you this entire show. These 12 steps, again, they can be interpreted in many different fashions. Doesn't only have to be alcohol. Doesn't only have to be drugs. Doesn't only have to be sex. It can be many different things. However, when you are stuck on something and can't change the way that you react and your emotional reaction towards a substance or towards an activity, you need to put your recovery first. you absolutely need to do that. And whether it's the step work or, again, using your support system, getting help, as it just said in step number 1 there. Number 3, take it one day at a time. This is what we mentioned in the last program as well. This is my first 2-month chip right here, coming up on the second, and hope to get another one. But I carry my 24-hour chip around with me in my wallet because it reminds me that, yes, maybe I do have a couple of months underneath me, but right now I need to be sober for today. I need to be sober for the next 24 hours. I need to be sober for this one day at a time. And instead of looking 50 years, 50 days, 50 minutes on down the line, I just think about today. And that's why I carry it around with me, and they're monumental. A lot of people, when you go to your first AA meeting, 24 hours. What the fuck is this chip, right? Doesn't mean anything. It's not as cool as a 1-year chip, but that 24-hour chip is more meaningful than what you think. Number 4, do things differently. I got into a routine. I got into a system. 11 a.m., got onto a break of work, picked up my booze, went to lunch, came back, got off work, went up, picked up pills. I was out of my first pint, so I picked up some more, had my show at 5 to 6, and then went home completely tanked. I had the same routine every single day. You need to change it up, do things differently. Go on a fucking walk, exercise. Take responsibility. Be honest with yourself and take responsibility. And get active in serving as well. Be patient, keep a journal, check in with your support regularly, and take the next best step as well. I know I kind of rushed through that last little bit, but just about a minute left here. Did want to get to this first reading. It is February 20th, so let's get to the 20th here. Actually, let's look back to last week, the day that we missed, February 13th. No time like the present. The very best use of my personal power got me into the rooms of CA. Admissions of utter defeat and powerfulness, although truly the solid foundation upon which joyous and purposeful lives are built, are difficult to face and much left to accept. Really kind of going into what we have been talking about today. All of those emotions that are going to catch up with you. Man, should I take this left turn? No time like the present to instead take that right turn. I learned that my disease centers in the mind. My self-obsessed, unaided thoughts will not admit any defeat, much less relinquish that false sense of power. So, again, no time like the presence, folks. Thanks for hanging out with us here on Simply Difficult. We'll have our little outro here in just a moment. But, again, did want to just give this out there for you guys. This is not affiliated. I am not a professional. I am just a transference system for you to maybe feel a little bit more comfortable with getting to an AA meeting or hanging out with us here on Simply Difficult each week. So 1 hour, 1 day a week, every single week, every Saturday. And again, thanks for hanging out with us. Next episode, we're going to kind of hammer on a little bit more into the DBT training. Again, as I had mentioned with the emotional regulation, we'll kind of segue into step 2 a little bit. And then episode number 5, we will be bringing a new guest onto the program as well. So again, if you'd like to be a part of the program, be a guest yourself, share your story, share some advice, give us an email, simply-difficult@outlook.com. We also appreciate your support, whether it's a like on the video. Also press subscribe, press that bell as well, get the notifications, and be a part of Simply Difficult every single week. For now, again, thanks for hanging out with us, and we'll see you next week.
Hey, thanks again for joining me today. And see, an hour wasn't so bad. So get yourself to an actual AA meeting, rehab, or other anonymous groups. Meet a sponsor, new friends, and learn how to talk about this simply difficult journey to recovery. Because I know how difficult it is when a substance dictates how good or bad your day is going to be, how it controls how you feel, and when it holds on to you, how you as a person changes. Dishonesty, manipulation, and no control of emotion. Well, I see you, and if it feels like nothing else can help, come join me next time on Simply Difficult.